Hey, what's up, guys? Astrology video for you today, talking about sex in the birth chart. But this can also pertain to synastry charts, where you lay two charts on top of each other and you see where in one person's chart the planets of the other fall into. So, your moon might be in Pisces, and someone you're with might have Pisces on the 11th house cusp, so your moon comes into their 11th house, for example. Also, this can pertain to a composite chart where in which two charts are put together and you come up with a mathematical average of those two charts to produce one. It tells you a lot about the shared values of a person, of a relationship between two people, shared general perspectives about life and about the different areas of life. So this also pertains again to the birth chart, in which, when we're looking at Venus and Mars, especially the two most conscious planets that have an effect on our sexual attraction to other people and vice versa, that's going to come into play too. So what I want to do right now is talk about sex in the houses. So we can imagine the astrological birth chart and the 12 houses within the birth chart as rooms that you could go into to experience a different kind of sex, okay? Or something different that's motivating or driving your attraction to someone. So obviously sex is a thing that's connected to everything else. Maybe things that happened in early childhood or experiences you've had will influence the way that you go about exerting yourself in that way, and may influence what you look for. But for the most part, we are more nature than nurture, and that's what the birth chart represents. It's the core personality that we are born with, our core predispositions and perceptions, before all of those layers of conditioning are stacked on top of us and sort of ruin us. Remember, real self-work comes when we peel back those layers of conditioning to find who we truly are underneath. And that's what the birth chart is good at, giving us information about in technical detail. So sexual proclivities and predispositions. First house. The first house is about physical appearance and how you unconsciously come off to people in unfamiliar situations. So whenever there's an interplay between you and another person in the first house, there may be a lot of physical attractiveness. Okay, first house of the sex brothel is about physical attractiveness. You walk in and there's someone there who you're very physically attracted to. Okay, you're just physically drawn to them. So that is, and from a more visual standpoint, it's how they come off to you. All right. So if you have things going on between, your chart and someone else's, and there's some first house action there, especially Venus and or Mars, Sun as well, Moon on a deeper emotional level. This person's going to come off as very physically attractive to you, or vice versa, or both. Second house is sensual sex, safe sex, maybe attraction that you gain through looking at maybe a shared appreciation for aesthetics, for physical things, for physical experiences of the senses. So the second house is about touch. Oh, I just love the way that person touches me, or I love to touch that person. There's probably some second house stuff going on there. Third house, dirty talk house, the communication house. All right. So if there's stuff going on in the third house between your chart and another person's chart, or just your chart, it'll again indicate something that you look for or that you need on your own, regardless of the traits that another person brings. Third house is about good communication. And then in a sexual context, that could mean dirty talk, but it's also about the sharing of knowledge. It's about learning from your partner and them learning from you. It's about sharing information and sharing perspectives. Third house is about is about that. Fourth house, comfortable sex, sex that makes you feel at home, cuddling, a lot of cuddling, maybe Netflix and chill, with heavy emphasis on the chill and the snacks as well. Don't want to leave snacks out of the second house equation. Okay. There are definitely snacks in the second house hookup situation. But fourth house is more comfortable. It's something that makes you feel safe, makes you feel at home with that person, you know. And again, like these sorts of things can come about even in just a hookup. Okay. You can have a fourth house, like someone's Venus and ascendant can come into your fourth house in a synastry chart, and you feel connected to that person in terms of like, hey, you know, maybe like this is a foundation for something greater, you know, something more sustainable, because you can't have an afflicted fourth house if you're going to build something with someone, right? um so like if you have you know, if you have Pisces on your fourth house cusp and you hook up with a Pisces, you might immediately think, uh feel like this could go beyond tonight, you know. That's what the fourth house brings us, is like more home feelings. Fifth house, playful, creative, romantic, sort of detached, friends with benefits type sex, you know, somebody who you like to spend time with and can kick it with. And also there's some attraction there. It's the fifth house is the pleasure house, the fun house. So it's fun just for fun's sake, you know, not with too many responsibilities attached to it. Sixth house, on the other hand, if there's some sexual energy going on there, it's more about routine, knowing what to expect. Um, Sex that is about giving, because it's the duty house, not just the routine house, but duty. So there's going to be a lot of giving in a sixth house sexy time situation, but it might run a risk of being a little too mundane, a little too routine if you're someone who needs to seek, you know, more variety and adventure. So the fifth house is good. Right before that, ironically enough, you know, remember each house kind of evolves into the next. So whereas the fifth house is all about like playtime and fun and not having responsibilities, sixth house is really about routine and duty and chores and getting done what you need to get done to keep things moving, keep things level. You know, um, there's a deep reason why the sixth house evolves out of the fifth house. It's because it's not all about fun. It's not all about pleasure, you know, as the fifth house would like to have it. Seventh house, it's the house of marriage and contractual agreements and connections one-on-one with other people. So this is more like marital sex, you know, connective sex, sex where there's really a connection between you as a person and another person as an individual. You just get each other, you know. There's a strong inclination to maybe lock that person down if if they have something significant going on in your seventh house in a synastry chart, or if you have, you know, some heavy placements in your composite seventh house. So sex in the seventh house is like you walk into that room and you're like, whoa, wife, maybe just came here to hook up, man. I mean, what the hell's going on, you know? But it is what it is. All right. Eighth house is kind of dark, you know, fetish sex, addictive sex, cheating, um, maybe that rebound hookup after you get divorced. Okay. Prostitution, because when you're selling your body, you're gaining other people's money, other people's resources for yourself through sexual power, through sexual exertion, right? Eighth house is the power house. It's the psychological house. It's the house of, you know, fear of physical death, physical mortality, you know? So it could be sex from fear or restrained sex. Okay. Um, and I mean that in both ways. It could be restraint from sex, or it could be sex involving restraint, right? So that gets into the fetish stuff. So eighth house, a number of different specific things could be going on. Depends what you've been through, for one. We're not getting into that too deeply right now. Ninth house sex is, well, ninth house is about higher learning and travel and exotic experiences and culturally significant, forms of learning and long trips. So ninth house sex could be teacher-student role play. It could be exotic sex with exotic people in exotic situations, the outdoors, could be affairs that you have when you're traveling, things that you learned from, that you took bigger, philosophical or belief-based lessons from that you'll carry on for the rest of your life. So ninth house sex can seem significant, because you'll learn stuff from it. But maybe that person just came into your life, or you went into that ninth house room to engage in that kind of interaction with someone that would give you that kind of effect. 10th house, boss role play, status and celebrity crushes. 10th house is like you're with someone who is maybe affecting that top part of your chart, that 10th house of your chart. So there's some sort of like status driving the motivation behind it. Maybe it's a celebrity crush. It could even be DDLG, daddy dom, little girl type, fetishes, because what's across from that status and public image house in the 10th house, it's home life. Okay, so again, dark interplay of the complementary nature of all the houses and all the signs. You have to look at what's going on opposite the house that we're talking about, because that thing will unconsciously manifest if you're placing too much conscious energy into the opposite. All right, that's how the polarity, the polar nature of the houses and the signs in astrology works. Okay, that's why the opposition is really one of the most important aspects to look at. So 10th house is about status. You gain status through having sex with someone in the 10th house. All right. 11th house. 11th house is all about community and who you are as a dutiful individual in the context of humanity. Okay, and your social groups. And so I'm looking at group sex, tantra, commune hippie bullshit. Also real friends with benefits, like a deep friend, someone who you really understand and get along with, but you realize that like, oh, maybe there's no more potential than just what we are. We're friends who can share pleasure sometimes. Okay. That would be a very 11th house thing. Someone is, if you have like, say, Sagittarius in your 11th house, you may find that people with heavy Sagittarius placements, you can have that deep understanding, but also detachment with. Okay. Maybe that's a bad example. Sagittarius tends to be pretty good at that with anyone, but you know what I mean. 11th house is kind of about its larger understanding of the relationship itself and what its significance is, but there's also a degree of detachment to it. Look at what's across from the 11th house. It's the 5th house. It's the detached friends with benefits, romance, short-term flings. It's the fun pleasure house. Okay. 11th house has some deeper understanding and significance to it. It just, it's just not, it's not as shallow, 12th house, last and never least. That's why I have videos specifically on the 12th house. 12th house sex, when there's something going on there in your interaction with another person or in your chart as well, it adds to some complexity that only certain people are going to be able to satisfy. This is spiritually significant sex, healing, deep healing, sex that has some karmic significance. You feel like you're sort of on another planet with this person, if you have shared 12th house stuff going on between your charts. So 12th house reveals unconscious emotions, unconscious perspectives and behaviors and desires. when there are significant placements happening between you and another person in the 12th house with regard to sexual attraction or sexual interaction. And that is going to be, that deep stuff is going to be the thing that actually attracts you to that person, because it can be a house of addiction, kind of like the eighth house, but on a more psychoanalytical and universal level, rather than just like eighth house being, oh, I'm just afraid of death and I can trace my desires, back to that fact is usually what it boils down to. But the 12th house is a little more, expansive, more breadth rather than depth. So the 12th house interaction with someone is going to really, really expand your mind, expand your soul into realms that maybe you didn't think were possible and that could prove to be addictive. So that is my video today on sex through the houses. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll probably be doing more unique videos like this pretty soon. So stay tuned. Have a good one. Bye.